Hey, English learners. Welcome back to the TalkMates. I'm Lena, and if you're listening for the first time, hi. Genuinely happy you're here. This is a podcast for people who want to speak real English, not the kind you studied for a test, the kind that actually comes out of your mouth when you're nervous or excited or trying to explain something and the words just aren't there yet. That's the gap we're here to close.
And I'm Max. Together, we're the TalkMates, and the whole idea behind what we do is simple. Every episode, we take one real situation you're going to face in English, and we walk through it like two people who actually talk to each other. Because the best way to learn a language is to hear it being used, not just explained.
Exactly. So whether you're an intermediate learner trying to sound less textbook, or someone who's been speaking English for years but still feels like something is missing, this episode is going to give you something you can use immediately.
All right, but Lena, I have to ask, why did you look slightly panicked when I brought up today's topic in the car?
I was not panicked.
You made a face.
I made a thoughtful face. There's a difference.
It was a panic face.
Okay, fine. So the topic today is talking about your country in English. And when you said that, I had this flashback, this memory from about 2 years ago.
Oh no. Tell me everything.
Okay, so I was at this work event, international crowd, lots of people I'd never met. And this woman comes up to me, super warm, and she goes, "So where are you from?" And I told her. And she goes, "Oh, amazing. What's it like there?" And I just stood there. Like my brain closed a tab it needed.
No.
I have lived in my country my entire life. I have feelings about my country, strong ones. And what came out was, and I quote, "It's nice. The food is really good."
That is genuinely heartbreaking.
She nodded politely and walked away, and I just stood there holding a glass of sparkling water, feeling like I'd let my whole country down. Okay, but here's the thing, and I've heard this from so many people. It's not that you didn't have anything to say. You had everything to say. It's that you'd never practiced saying it in English. So when the moment came, there was nothing loaded in the chamber. That's exactly it. It's like, you know the feeling. The thought is there. It's right there. But the English words for it just aren't.
And that's what today is about. Not teaching you facts about your country. You already know those. We're giving you the language, the phrases, the structure, the moves that make you sound like someone with real thoughts and real opinions, not a travel brochure.
So let's actually start with the very first thing that usually comes up. Someone asks, "What's your country like?" And there's this pull, you feel it, to just list things. It's hot. It's crowded. It's beautiful. The food is good. And that's not wrong, but it's not interesting either.
Right, because facts don't make people curious, feelings do. There's actually a principle here that I think about a lot. Facts are for Wikipedia, feelings are for conversations. If you want someone to lean in, you have to give them something they can't just Google.
So instead of saying, "My country is in North America and has a population of 621 million people," which, okay, sure, accurate, you say something like, "It's one of those places that hits you before you even understand why. There's this energy. It's loud and it's warm and it never really stops."
See how different that is? Same country, but now I actually want to visit. The second version has a pulse.
And the phrases that do this work really well. Write these down if you can. It's the kind of place where, and then you finish with something specific. It's the kind of place where a stranger will give you directions and then walk you there themselves. That one image does more than a paragraph of adjectives.
I love that one. Another one that's incredibly useful is what a lot of people don't realize is, because now you're positioning yourself as the insider. You're the expert. What a lot of people don't realize is that the north and south of my country are basically two completely different cultures. Same country, completely different world.
And it's true for almost every country, right? There are layers. There's always more than what people expect. You just have to give yourself permission to go there.
And the phrase, "there's something about it that's hard to put into words," use that, because it's true, and it actually makes people more curious, not less. You're not being vague, you're being honest about how complex a place can be.
Okay, and here's one more before we move on, because this one is magic. It's not what most people expect when they first arrive. Just say that, because the other person will immediately ask, "What do you mean?" And now you have a real conversation. You didn't lecture anyone, you just opened a door.
Which is the whole game, really. You're not trying to explain your country. You're trying to make someone curious enough to ask the next question.
Okay, so we've got describing the place itself. But here's where it gets more personal. And honestly, more interesting. Because when people ask about your country, what they're usually really asking about is the people, the culture. What does it actually feel like to grow up there?
And this is the part where I see people go one of two directions. Either they go super generic, the people are very friendly and welcoming, family is very important to us, which, fine, but so does every country say that. Or they try to explain the entire history and philosophy of their culture in 90 seconds, and everyone gets lost.
What actually works is one specific moment, one real story. Instead of, "family is very important in my culture," which is honestly something you could say about almost anywhere, you say, "Growing up, every Sunday the whole family came over. Grandparents, cousins, neighbors who weren't even technically family. That was just Sunday." I didn't understand until I moved away how unusual that was. Okay, and here's one more before we move on, because this one is magic. It's not what most people expect when they first arrive. Just say that, because the other person will immediately ask, "What do you mean?" And now you have a real conversation. You didn't lecture anyone, you just opened a door.
Which is the whole game, really. You're not trying to explain your country. You're trying to make someone curious enough to ask the next question.
Okay, so we've got describing the place itself. But here's where it gets more personal, and honestly, more interesting. Because when people ask about your country, what they're usually really asking about is the people, the culture. What does it actually feel like to grow up there?
And this is the part where I see people go one of two directions. Either they go super generic. The people are very friendly and welcoming. Family is very important to us. Which, fine, but so does every country say that. Or they try to explain the entire history and philosophy of their culture in 90 seconds, and everyone gets lost.
Stephen III, please hang on for just a moment. Now, I know something true about you and where you're from. Not a fact, a feeling. I can picture that Sunday, and I probably have a question about it.
There's a phrase for this moment too. It's hard to explain unless you've been there. And then you explain it anyway. What that phrase does is it tells the other person, "I know this might sound strange to you. I'm not assuming you'll get it immediately, but I'm going to try." And that's a generous thing to do in a conversation. And honestly, one of the things I love about this topic is that you don't have to justify your culture to anyone. You're not there to defend it or apologize for it. You're just sharing it. Those are completely different energies, and people feel the difference.
So true. Like, we don't really knock before entering a room at home. That's interesting. You don't need to add 12 sentences explaining why. Just say the thing. Let the other person be curious. Let them ask.
Okay, so now the place, the culture, the people, the next piece is comparing. Because especially if you're living abroad or talking to someone from a very different background, at some point they're going to ask, what's the biggest difference? And you want to be ready for that.
And this is actually where a lot of learners get uncomfortable because they don't want to sound like they're criticizing either place. But contrast doesn't have to be criticism. It's just observation. It's just, this is different, and that's interesting.
Exactly. Back home, we tend to is such a clean opener. Back home, we tend to eat much later in the evening. Dinner at 9 or 10 is completely normal. I still can't get used to eating at 6. No judgment, just a real difference.
And whereas does a lot of work here. Here, people tend to be pretty direct. You ask something, you get a straight answer. Whereas back home, you'd talk around the subject for a while first. It was kind of a way of being polite. Short sentence, real contrast, zero drama.
There's also compared to here. Compared to here, the pace of life feels much slower. Not in a bad way, just different. And I want to highlight that little phrase, not in a bad way, because it does something really important. It keeps you from sounding like you're ranking places. You're just noticing.
And one of my absolute favorites, it took me a while to get used to the difference in, because that one admits something real. You felt the difference in your body. You had to adapt. That's honest. And people respect honest.
It took me a while to get used to how quiet things get here at night. Back home, 10 p.m. and the streets are still full. Here, it's like the city just sighs and closes its eyes. Now that's a real sentence. I want to know where you're from.
All right. Before we get to practice, let's talk about the mistakes. Because there are a few patterns that keep coming up, and once you see them, you can't unsee them.
The biggest one is overgeneralizing. People in my country are very hospitable. Are they? All of them? Every single person? That sentence sounds like a tourism campaign, not a real person. And the fix is tiny. Just add a qualifier.
Most people I've met back home are incredibly hospitable. In general, where I grew up, people treat guests like royalty. At least in my city, people are very open. You've said basically the same thing, but now it sounds like you're a person who actually thinks, not a brochure. The second mistake is tense. This one is subtle, but it matters. A lot of learners say, my country is dangerous, or my country is very poor. And it's not that they're wrong, but it sounds permanent. Like it's just a fact of nature that will never change. And places change, people change. So if you mean something was true at a certain point, say that. When I was growing up, things were tough economically. It's different now. Or it was going through a difficult period when I left. That's more accurate. And it's more interesting because now there's a timeline. There's a story.
And the third one, and this one is really about energy, is being either too modest or too proud. Too modest sounds like, oh, it's nothing special. You've probably never heard of it. It's kind of small. Nothing really happens there. And you can see the other person's face just fall because now they feel awkward. They asked a question and you made it weird.
And too proud? You know this one. My country is the most beautiful in the world. The food is better than anywhere else. Nobody does it like us. And now the other person is on the defensive. Even if they don't say anything, something closes.
The sweet spot is just being genuine. You can love where you're from and still talk about it honestly. The complexity is what makes it interesting. The thing you're not sure how to feel about is probably the most interesting thing you can say.
Okay, practice time. And this is not optional. This is the part where you actually speak. Not in your head, out loud. Because your mouth needs practice, not just your brain.
We're going to give you a question, a model answer, and then you pause and say your own version about your country with your own details.
First question. Someone asks you, what's your country like? Use "it's the kind of place where" and give one specific detail, not a general one. Something real. Here's a model. It's the kind of place where you can show up somewhere with no plan and somehow the night becomes a story. There's this energy that I never found anywhere else. Pause the episode. Say your version out loud.
Second one. Someone says, what's the culture like there?
what matters to people. Use something that's really important in my culture is, and follow it with a specific scene, not a value. Here's a model. Something that's really important in my culture is the idea that food is how you say I love you. You come to someone's home, they feed you, you leave hungry, something went wrong. It's that simple. Your turn.
And the third one, someone asks, what's the biggest difference between your country and here? Use back home and whereas in the same answer. Model. Back home, personal space is kind of negotiable. People stand close, they touch your arm when they talk. Strangers feel like potential friends. Whereas here, there's this invisible line, and everyone respects it. I still cross it by accident sometimes and then just stand there feeling like I've committed a crime. If you did all three of those out loud, actually out loud, I mean it, you just used 6 real phrases in real sentences about a real place. That's the practice. Not memorizing, using. And honestly, the best thing you can do after this episode is find one person, a friend, a classmate, someone you met online, and just talk about your country for 5 minutes. Don't prepare, don't script it, just use the phrases and see what comes out.
Because the goal was never to sound perfect. The goal is to sound like you, just in English.
That's everything we've got for today. The phrases are going to be in the description if you're on YouTube. Screenshot them, save them, actually use them.
I'm Max, she's Lena, we're the TalkMates, and next time someone asks where you're from, you're going to have something real to say.
See you in the next one.
See you next time.